Oh, there we go.
There we go. Episode 287 of your Code Radio program is officially going on the air right now. Stand by while I push the buttons and get us ready to go. Going on in the tech industry today. A little warm-up, a little pre-show warm-up. Let's just see what's going on. Looks like Apple is buying Shazam, the music identification service, for $400 million. Bought them out right underneath Spotify. Google's Home Max smart speaker is going on sale. That's their big one, their HomePod competitor, for $400. It's the biggest speaker yet. And you can get it at Best Buy, too. I wonder if I can go there and find it today. I have to return something to Best Buy today. Microsoft has released a free preview of its quantum computing development kit, which includes the Q# programming language, compiler, and a quantum simulator. Bitcoin futures are now a thing. Ladies and gentlemen, the Wall Street Journal reports that U.S. Bitcoin futures start trading on CBOE a week ahead of future rollouts on rival CME Group's futures market, and the Bitcoin price climbed 8% in the first 7 minutes of trading. Steve Wozniak, Tim Berners-Lee, and others are asking the FCC to cancel its vote repealing net neutrality. The group labeling itself Early Internet and Computing Pioneers have called on the Senate's FCC Oversight Committee to censure next week's net neutrality vote. LiDAR is big money, too. $27 million in Series A funding led by auto powerhouse Cox Enterprise. A LiDAR autonomous sensor startup Outster is the benefactor of that. LiDAR, which is going to be a key technology for self-driving cars. YouTubers posting disturbing videos about kids earned hundreds of thousands of dollars from ads and say they've chased a trend that YouTube's algorithm drove. I agree. Meanwhile, all of my shit keeps getting demonetized. Oh! Coming from the cryptocurrency corner, UBS to launch a live Ethereum platform with Barclays, Credit Suisse, and more. Oh! The SEC has halted a multi-million-dollar Munchie ICO for securities violation. France approves blockchain trading of unlisted securities. Wow. Hello. Just,
I forgot the mic. Hang on.
Yeah, go ahead. You do that. I'll go turn off my little heater in here because it's too loud. Too loud. Yeah, there we go. It's beginning to look a lot like a bubble. Everywhere Bitcoin goes. That's pretty good. I'm just made that up right there. I'm just gonna run with it. Somebody else could turn that into a song. Add a little beat to it. It's beginning to look a lot like a... No, that's horrible. Here. Let's see. You stepped away to plug in your mic and now I hear nothing. And now I hear fucking nothing. It's horrible. I can't work like this. No alive. Sometimes it's just easier to type an absolute value in than it is to scroll to try to get the right value on a slider. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, don't you? You know what I'm saying, chat room. Boom, bringing up the chat room. There we go. There we go. Hello, chat room. Discord.me/JupiterColony if you want to join our arses. It's a lot of noise I'm getting from Mike's line. I gotta work on my gate while he's doing that. Good chance to work on the gate. Beep, 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 beep. There we go. That's getting better, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. That's good. You see? This is why the good Lord invented the gate, my friends. Get rid of that little extra USB machine noise. Oh.
And on the fifth day, the Lord said, "Let there be math."
All right, what's going on? Why is our call kind of? It says we're doing fine. It says It says everything. Our connection's good, but you sound garbled.
Hang on.
But it says we're good. It says we're good, but you sound kind of like you're, maybe you got a little poo in the mouth or something. You don't got poo in the mouth, right?
We spit it up.
That's better.
That sound any better now?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah, it's better. But there's still just like some network garbliness. Like
I don't.
You got sloppy Wi-Fi over there. What's going on with the Wi-Fi? You got sloppy Wi-Fi? I'm suspecting sloppy Wi-Fi. I don't know what that means exactly, but I like the term. Sloppy Wi-Fi. Yeah, I think Mr. Dominic, I think what you got over there is a case of sloppy Wi-Fi a little bit, and I don't know, maybe it's just coming and going a little bit. You know how that happens with the vapors, it just comes and goes.
Well, let's get it those magical blue Wi-Fi pills, and
see how it does.
We'll have a little more rigid Wi-Fi.
Heyo. All right. Well, I think I think all my buttons are in the upright position that need to be.
Let's do it.
I got my seatbelt and I've turned off the music, so I think we're ready to go. All right, stand by, darling. We'll start the show. It's 2:87, and it is the 11th. And we should bring up one more thing. We have DigitalOcean today and the Linux Academy. Get those guys. Okay. Now we are ready for the show. This is Coder Radio, episode 287 for December 11th, 2017. everyone, and welcome to Coder Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week, sometimes what feels like more than once a week. Why, yes, it's our host, Mr. Michael Dominic. Hello, Mike!
Misa fully in charge now!
I just gotta always prepare myself for that moment where the Jar Jar Binks comes out, and I'm never ready. I'm never ready for it. You'd think I would be, but I never am. It always gets me. I guess I love it. I think I'm coming around.
Chris?
Nothing, Jar Jar.
You used to kill all your friends by accident?
Whoa. Well, you know what? I'm over it, really. You know? Because you got to be all about the present.
It's a sad cloud on Naboo now, right?
Yeah. I really actually, ever since you hooked me up with that beer, I don't know if you really even call it beer, Jar Jar, but boy, have I been using that to pass the kids out at night. It's great. I don't drink it myself, but whatever you put in that stuff that you brought back from that encampment, good stuff. They love it. So
Misa Gungan Moonshine.
Well, Mr. Dominic, you and I are connected back together again. It feels like it's just been 3 days since I talked to you last. And,
I know.
Somehow we managed to put together a whole damn show. We even got a couple of people writing in with the feedback and whatnot. So it's like we can do a whole proper episode this week. So
it's weird. I feel like we may have awoken the sleeping, whatever they are.
Lobsters? Brendan writes in with a little feedback we're going to kick it off this week with on a little follow-up from last week's show, 286. Love the show, guys. I wanted to ask, as a dark matter developer that was planning to strike it out on my own at some point, if it's a good idea in the current political and power company landscape. This episode brought to light issues going that route from a policy perspective. We were talking about healthcare not being affordable for small businesses and sole proprietors, and also being very small fish playing in a sandbox of Godzillas like the Apple and Amazon and Google platforms. Is the option to go solo or starting a small shop becoming less and less of a viable option? Apps are subject to the whims of the sandbox owner, and taxes and healthcare affect all small businesses. Staying a dark matter developer has always been thought of as the safe option, but you trade a lot of freedom, but it seems it's the only route to go if you want to take care of a family and actually have money to take home. What are your thoughts? And I appreciate your perspectives. As always, thanks, Brandon. Ooh.
Okay, so before we jump into this, can you read the next feedback, the tweet I linked? Because there are actually two sides of the same comment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So then the next comment comes in, which Twitter at did they do at Dumanuku for you? Okay, we'll see. Boop, 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 boop,
Yep.
boop, boom. I love the show. I'm a liberal, but I understand your pains. With that said, the Kansas experiment failed miserably. So if cutting taxes really the answer? Also, if business ownership sucks so much, why do it? I'm sure you can easily get a nice dev job. There you go. So, okay, yeah, sort of the same, different take, but kind of same core question, right? Where do you want to start? Because I don't know how to answer the question in a weird way. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, would you be a father again? Almost. It's that kind of question.
It's like, so yeah. I was hoping you'd have more clarity, because for me the answer to both of these guys is, well, it is what it is, right? Like this is the way the world works. I mean, what would you say? So the implication is to be an entrepreneur or to own a small shop, you can't have a family?
I mean, that's one of the reasons to do it at the same time, though, because you want to be able to have custom schedules. Like this morning,
right.
I decided I wanted to take the new dog for an hour-long walk, and so I have that flexibility. I wouldn't have that necessarily all the time at certain jobs. So there is we talk a lot about the downsides. The positives are there. You really kind of I think if you have a calling, you almost kind of have to answer it in a weird sort of sappy way to put it. If you have a drive to go strike out on your own and do your own thing, you're always going to wonder if you don't do it. And you could always start it as a side experiment while you still have the regular job, like a hobby, like a weekend thing. It is a difficult decision to make, and it does seem to be getting it. Granted, too, I started doing this 7-8 years ago. It was a different time too. So I don't know. I don't know if I could answer it the same. I think I don't think I don't think I could be an employee anymore. I think I'm broken as far as being an employee.
So that's what I view it as. I don't think I could ever go back.
Yeah.
But I will say that like it's weird, right? Like the things that like the Twitter commenter mentions, like politics and taxes. I think as someone who employs people, you're more sensitive to different taxes than most people, right? Like I'm hypersensitive to payroll tax.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But I'm less sensitive to like straight up income tax. Now part of that's the old magic of the pass through. But part of that's also, I moved to Florida because like it doesn't have an income tax. It does incentivize weird decisions like that though, right? Like there is a material advantage to not be in a high tax state if you're self-employed. Because the market will generally, especially for technology workers, pay you a wage that is the wage as a contractor or as a shop. But if you go to a high tax state, you're just giving up that difference.
Yeah, and I know a couple of podcasters who have moved to Texas to do their podcast operations simply for I don't know if it's a tax. They came from California, so I think it's just mostly a tax thing. Yeah, so I would say try a side experiment and see how it goes, and then spin up. One of the things that is also true is I may go a different route today if I was starting. That might be I would still do it. I think I would just do it differently. I would probably be leaner, and I probably wouldn't try to grow horizontally much, although we don't already as it is. But I would probably just try to keep it a pretty tight operation. And if I just can't do the work, then the work just doesn't happen. But I don't know. I don't know if that's true necessarily. It's easy for me to say now that I'm,
Well, it's also easy to like go back and second guess yourself, right? I think it's stuff. And I know to our, we've been like hinting at politics a lot. The difference between now and when we both relatively at the same time started our businesses is not that material, right? In fact, for me, taxes are actually higher, right? Not lower. Because I started it right in the smack of the Bush payroll tax cuts, which is probably why I'm more sensitive to that, because it's psychological. Because all of a sudden, under Obama, those went up and I was mad, right?
Yeah, yep, and it's
especially in a high tax state like New Jersey.
So now let's move from this to Mike was right. And you've been automatically tweeting about this for months, my friend. That templated apps in the App Store are eventually just going to start getting kicked out. And JB used to have a few of these. We were kind of early on this horrible bandwagon that I didn't really realize what was happening. But Libsyn came to us and said, "Hey, we're going to bang out a few apps for you if you can give us some art assets and some feeds." And next thing I knew, there was thousands of basically my app in the App Store with just a few elements changed out.
Yeah. So I've had a bot doing some automated tweets. Some of them I thought because they were like my most popular blog posts, and this one because it was basically a warning. And people actually reply like, "This is spam. What are you talking about? iOS 10's been gone." I'm like, no, they changed the rules just because they're not enforcing it right now. You cannot have templated apps anymore. They're going to throw them out, and it took them like 9 months to actually do something about it.
So what's interesting though, right, is not just rejecting submissions, but it's actually actively going back and like.
Yeah, they're going into the back catalog and removing them.
They're culling the herd. Is that I don't know. Like they're going through and basically trying to raise the bottom floor of the App Store quality, I guess.
This is an interesting thing for me because a few years ago I was going to develop a product called Finger Foods that was going to be a template app for local restaurants to do basically their own implementation of like a seamless web.
Well, isn't there actually kind of a place for that? I mean, that's why WordPress is so huge, right?
Oh, not anymore. Well, that's exactly what they're trying to get rid of, the WordPress of apps, right?
But it is not practical for, like, I can think of 30 businesses around here that they're one or two people. It's a mechanic shop, it's a bakery, it's a Thai restaurant. They would like to have some sort of basic information on their website, their business hours. They want to update it for holiday announcements, and maybe even book an appointment or take an order. That's it. And that
should probably be a PWA. I mean, in all reality, that two-man shop is a PWA.
Yeah, but what people are doing is they're hiring an IT guy not a developer. They're hiring an IT guy, and he is selling them like a $1,000 package where he sets up WordPress with like some consumer e-commerce crap plugins and says, "Here's your site, $1,000." And that's their max. That's what they're willing to do. That's what they'll do, and that's it.
So, okay. So there's a couple things wrong here, right? One, it is true that the cost to develop a low-end app has never been lower. I mean, with tools like Ionic and Xamarin, and it really is true that for like 15 grand, you can get a really low-end app. Now, a lot of small businesses that are using these templates might hear 15 grand and be like, "Are you on crack?" But I'm going to actually take this is not what I believe, but let's play devil's advocate. Apple doesn't want to be in the business of shipping a bunch of shovelware to their customers, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really add value to the iOS hardware.
It doesn't add value. Like if you look at apps as just a complement that they're commoditizing, it doesn't make sense for them to want a bunch of templated restaurant apps or templated mechanic apps or
wouldn't it be the same reason why Nintendo wouldn't want a bunch of shit games in their e-store? You want something cheap, but at the same time, you want something that makes the DS a valuable gaming platform.
Well, and people are like agonizing building these really intense indie apps and making nothing. Mm-hmm. So Apple doesn't need the volume anymore.
So this seems like a good opportunity in a way. This is a this is a money-making opportunity.
It's not. It's not.
How so? How can you not make a little money off this?
Well, because you hit it in one. The small business's budget is still like $1,000.
Yeah, that didn't just randomly change. Yeah, that's true.
You're not going to get them to spend the 10 or 15 grand that they weren't going to spend before, right? I mean, listen, every project, every business, every client has their screen point when they feel like things cost more than they should.
Yep.
Right. And once you hit that, you're in a place of like, something is wrong. You have to talk about it. Unfortunately, for that two-man mechanic, I mean, and this is like not to jump back to the political stuff, but most small businesses could not absorb a $10,000 unexpected expense, right? They would be insolvent. Many even five, right? Even 5,000. So the idea that these guys are all going to go not do their templated app that they're paying $1,000 or $2,000 a year for and do custom apps is unrealistic. What they might do is go to their WordPress developer and ask for a much more mobile responsive theme and maybe pay a couple $100s for that so that it looks better on iPhone.
Yeah.
If it doesn't already. Or frankly, they're going to do nothing because how much freaking business are they really getting from this mobile app anyway?
I don't know. If you want the money from the millenniums, you gotta be where they're at. I am not ashamed to admit that I am much more likely to go to a car dealership that lets me book my appointment online, or if I can order my sandwich before I get there, I'm much more likely to go to that shop. It's time's valuable, and minimizing human interaction and doing it through the computer minimizes error. I still talk to the people when I go into their shop, and I still enjoy interacting with them. But I was struggling for a year to get something fixed on my truck through a mechanic. And then when I realized, just randomly, I thought, maybe this small little shop has a website. And I went there, and I was able to type in everything that was wrong, so it all printed out on their work orders verbatim for what I wrote instead of being translated through two people. And guess what? They finally fixed the problem. So I find, it at least for me, it definitely moves the needle on my purchasing choice.
See, it doesn't for me, but that's okay. I mean, maybe it does work, but there's a bigger picture here, right, about closed control platforms. And, at one point, Apple was like encouraging these businesses, right? Do templated apps for your local restaurant. And I would, somebody, I forgot who it was one of these these people who sells restaurant apps was saying, how many ways can you do a pizzeria's app, right? It's like 4 functions. Call me, look at my menu, order online to pick up, order for delivery, and
maybe order history.
Order history, right? Yeah. Coupons, right?
Yeah.
There's really only so many things you can do, and if you're following the human interface guideline, there's like 3 ways to do that. So,
and it all comes down to the great artwork. No, I completely agree. It's
see, this is. I mean, we talked about this years ago, right? And we got feedback that I was crazy. But once the big brands got involved in the App Store, it was going to start. They were going to really start conquering sections of it.
Yeah.
And I think this is, Apple's not going to toss the Domino's Pizza app out.
Right. Right.
No matter what.
And if
right.
if Honda submitted an app to manage your car, and they made the same exact app for Acura and Honda, they just changed the logos on them, they wouldn't kick that out either.
Right, Acura, Honda, Scion, right? If they're all the same app with different colors and different logos, they'd be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So this is the world, right? Like, this is...
To our emailer's first point, really. This is the other part of his email. This is the reality that if you feel like, well, there's still something I can do in this world where this is how things are, and I'm a small fish, if I could still find something that's unique, that will stand out, and that I have a passion for, then you should probably go for it. Because this is the reality here.
I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago, too, with the New York Times article. We talked about the Frightful Five, about Amazon, Google, and the whole crew there.
Yeah.
That we are in a time of consolidation right now, and it could change in 10 years. It might be different again, but really the big boys are killing the little boys. Like that's why
I think people. I think this might be part of the background radiation to the net neutrality debate, because if you think about it, say net neutrality goes down the way that, like, the people that are really concerned about the way it's cableized, everything gets chunked up. It really would entrench your Facebooks, your Googles, your Twitters. It would be a whole nother level of platform lock-in. So now it would be at the network level too, not just the market level, or not just the like the big five, because they have marketing and they have all these things. But then it would actually be locked in by the very structure of the internet too, and that seems like I can understand why people would be really concerned about something like that, because in that environment, it's not really possible for a Jupiter Broadcasting to exist.
No, it's not, right? It becomes really hard. I mean, and it's interesting that, like, Netflix isn't screaming about net neutrality anymore.
Well, they got boxes in all the major ISPs now. They don't need it.
Yeah, it's I don't even know what to say. We should probably move off of this. Yeah. I'm sure people are tired of hearing about our Pauline.
Yeah. We do have some interesting hoopla. Let me take a moment here, Mr. Dominic.
Wait, can we do one more before the hoopla?
Sure.
So this is not the IBM one you put, but there is a side point to this app templating thing. The only template apps that are exempt from this rule are the IBM Enterprise templates in partnership with Apple.
Oh yeah, right, which is the whole thing. That's the whole IBM thing.
Do you remember last year when the IBM partnership came out, that I was worried that IBM was now a direct competitor with little shops?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they build template apps for companies. They build
template apps for companies that you can buy for a reasonable price.
Apple couldn't be happier. Apple couldn't be happier. That's amazing.
And the big difference, IBM's template apps use all of the Apple APIs and are all native.
Okay.
So that's another thing. Most of these templates they're banning are usually hybrid.
Maybe that's the signal right there. Okay, so let's start the hoopla off with an IBM story. First, I want to mention DigitalOcean, though, the first sponsor this week, DigitalOcean.com. Go over there and create your account, and then once your account's ready to go, apply our promo code CODERDIGITAL. That'll give you a $10 credit, and that is useful because their $5 a month rig will be impressively powerful. You can run your website on there. I have ran Quasar Core as a back-end IRC core that stays always logged in, and it's perfect for that. Nextcloud, and you can attach more storage as you need it. In fact, now they even have object storage. It's called Spaces, and it's amazing. They have team support too. If you're working in a project or a company, you get started in seconds. And every machine you deploy uses SSD drives. Simple API to manage all of it, monitoring and alerting so you can find out how your performance looks and if something goes down. They also have network level firewall. So you go in there, you say, this is what I want to block, this is what I want to allow. And they block it at their data center level. So it never even hits your rig. That traffic never even comes to your machine. You never waste a cycle on it. You never send a packet. It's beautiful. And they have load balancing as a service. In fact, I'm going to point you over to their documentation, their community section, which is available to everybody. But, go over there and use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. Help us out. Keep the show going. Let them know you heard about it here. But I'm going to recommend this article to anybody that's on Ubuntu LTS 1604 and has thought about messing around with high availability and setting up floating IPs and using Heartbeat. That is some good stuff, and this came out in November, and I've been looking around. I have not seen a better guide on how to do this. It's so well structured with good artwork that has it's diagrams that actually have like active data flows and active labels in the diagram. It's at a whole nother level. It's at a whole nother level. DigitalOcean's really stepping up their game. And when you maximize, when you zoom in on the image, it pushes down the note there, but you can still read it all. It doesn't take over your whole screen. This is really how it's done. And if this is a topic you want to learn about high availability, this is the guide to read. DigitalOcean.com. You create your account, then use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. That'll give you a $10 credit. You can mess around with the high availability setup for 2 months for free. DigitalOcean.com. Thank you to everybody using our promo code CODERDIGITAL. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Promo code CODERDIGITAL. Now, IBM has announced new code patterns, or you might call them templates, and bot solutions for developers. Today, as we record the show, IBM is announcing new tools for building artificial intelligence, blockchain data, and cloud solutions. The company announced the release of more than 120 code patterns designed to help developers better search for open source code. These patterns do the dirty work for the developer. They are a curated package of code, one-click GitHub repo, and documentation and resources for the address and address some of the most popular areas of development. All right, the words are starting to run together, but it includes AI, blockchain, containers, and you guessed it, Internet of Things. These patterns will help developers get right to the task at hand, giving them more time to innovate and build, according to the Vice President of Developer Technology and Advocacy at IBM. In addition, the company announced an enterprise bot asset exchange solution. Now, this is not the first one, Mr. Dominic. But I wonder what you think about this. It's an exchange that is built on the principles of community, IBM says, and leverages a shared economy so developers can learn from one another while earning prizes and recognition through a point system for active users. With the market for chatbots exploding and only expected to continue to rise, IBM says, this exchange gives developers the ability to quickly discover, configure, and deploy their own bots. A bot exchange with a point system and a rep system ran by IBM.
No, thank you.
Yeah? So Microsoft, Google, okay. IBM, the enterprise old blue, you not interested? Don't you think it would have like a weight of authority almost with it? Like, yeah, we're using some of the IBM solutions, and we.
Okay, but the deal is not as straightforward with IBM. I mean, I've been trying to get more information on this, and I was hoping to get some feedback from them before the show today, but I did not get a reply. So the deal with like we're using Azure Cognitive Services and Lewis, right, which are kind of the same thing, but Microsoft insists on using two names. And the deal is like you get some for free, and then if you use too much, you have to pay them. Right, like that, and that's the end of the deal. It's a very simple financial transaction. This whole reputation bot exchange thing is a little too weird for my taste.
Are they going to build like a GitHub for bots? Like, are they trying to build a competitor?
It seems like they're trying to build like a bot community. Like Google's the same thing, right? You can like pay for TensorFlow and the other Google services, and you get something for free and you pay for it. Amazon, by the way, who we don't talk about a lot, but they have a huge Amazon machine learning platform, an AI platform. Same deal. You get a little bit for free, right? And you pay for it, right? Like IBM's thing is just so out of what I would. Again, I was really hoping for feedback on this from them because I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it does feel a bit like a GitHub for bots. I prefer just to like if I'm using your platform, I'd rather pay you for that as an infrastructure cost than be in this weird relationship.
Right. And okay, so that was my conclusion there too. Now, the second thing that struck me about this hoopla was, isn't this sort of another validation of the coming bot market once IBM is doing this?
Oh no, I think so. I think bots are going to be pretty substantial. I mean, obviously, we're calling ourselves the Mad Botter now, right? Like. I'm a big believer in this. I think it is the next big market. It's just a little immature right now, honestly.
Well, maybe IBM will bring some maturity to it. Not that I'm some big huge IBM fan, but the reason why it gives me some thought is I have been in meetings where I saw the CTO's eyes. Oh, IBM, that kind of thing. Oh, IBM. Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't happen too much anymore.
No, I know, but that was my experience back in the day.
So someone just asked in the Discord, by the way, you can go to discordapp.com/channel. I don't know how to read that string. So
you go to, well, if you go to discord.me/Jupiter Colony, then it'll give you on, it'll put you on our whole server, and we have a dedicated Coder Radio channel in there.
Awesome. Yeah. So Thirth in the chat, I hope I said that right, is asking, what does that mean for Alice? Well, it means nothing, right? Alice is built completely on Azure services, the MSBot framework, with some usage of the Gmail and Google Work APIs. But and we are a BizSpark partner. So in the worst case scenario, we have to eventually hand over some cash to Microsoft. But that is literally the end of the relationship, right? Other than the BizSpark partnership.
So there's another story in the Hoopla this week that got me down a path. So we'll start with the story itself. A new version of Homebrew is out. Mention that to those of you out there that use it. Homebrew 1.4.0. Mike says it's the most significant change, not this Mike, the other Mike, the one that writes Homebrew, says it's the most significant change since 1.3.0, and it's a Homebrew, and Homebrew filters environment variables now, which is going to be really nice, like when you're building stuff. So in the process of reading about this, I came across an interesting discussion on Hacker News, and somebody points out that the Patreon page for Brew, which I think you would agree is a pretty huge package manager, and just about anybody doing any kind of development work on a Mac or any kind of sysadmin work on a Mac has Brew installed, or just power users have Brew installed. And the Brew project makes $170 per month off of Patreon. That's it. And then the developer notes this, and it says, "Welcome to open source software. The site I run has 70,000 monthly unique visitors." This is not the Brew developer. This is somebody who's also an open source developer. "The site I run has 70,000 monthly unique visitors. It's used by all the top tech companies and brings in about $45 a month in ad revenue. I'm not complaining because the only financial costs are my domain hosting. I chalk my personal time up to an educational investment. I'm sure Homebrew has a significantly higher value, but you've got to weigh the trade-offs. If Homebrew costs $9.99 a year for access to updates, I would pay it, but I know a lot of people would complain." Other people might mention, too, how enterprises will use software and never contribute to the open source project. But if some business came along and took the same exact source code, white-labeled it, and charged a yearly $2,000 maintenance fee, the enterprises would happily pay it. And it is a really shitty dynamic we find ourselves in, where projects that are so important can have so little backing. And the developer of Homebrew himself, Mike, said that when he was at Google, he was told that like 90% of their developers use Brew. And he's making $177 per month. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a classic open source problem of the tragedy of the commons, right? No one values it because it's free, but if it weren't free, it would have a much higher value.
And if you tried to make money on it, you would probably die in some sort of mob justice attack, because it's just, that doesn't go well.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing for like Ubuntu, although Ubuntu actually make decent money. So
yeah, but not a ton in donations, right? They're making money through services and enterprise stuff.
Yeah,
OEM
I mean,
deals.
the challenge is how would you do like a Homebrew Pro, right?
Right.
And then we're into the old. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago the buzzword was open core, right? Where the core technology was open source.
Right.
Then you had professional services or a professional tier on top of it. But
did you see that Classic Shell just recently, the developer of the Classic Shell is one of those shells you can install on Windows 10 that makes it look like original Windows. And the developer just gave up, said, "I'm sick of chasing Windows 10. I'm done. I'm just going to MIT license the whole thing. Have at it. I'll run the forms for a few more months." What do you think of that kind of abandonware approach, where the software doesn't die, but it's just like, here's a big code dump. It's never been open source ever. There's no development community around it at all.
Here's a bunch of code with no documentation.
Yeah, but then at the same time, sometimes that has been successful. You have seen a few things, like the Quake engines and whatnot, where...
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
so I don't think in this case it's going to be successful. In the case of Classic Shell.
I find it all interesting just from our Windows 10 workflow episode we did a couple of weeks ago. I've still been thinking about that a little bit.
I mean, as a pretty heavy OS 10 user yourself,
yeah, super heavy.
Would you pay for Power? Like, how much would you pay a year for PowerShell? Not PowerShell. I'm sorry, Homebrew.
I wouldn't. No, I don't really use it that much myself. I mean, I legitimately don't really have much use for it, because to me, I would just, I don't know.
See, I'd actually pay, because MacPort sucks.
If
And
I had to
do
install a lot of software on a Mac, yeah, I would.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really has become the de facto package manager for Mac OS. But you know what the real solution to Homebrew's resource problem is, right? Apple just adopts it.
Oh, well, maybe. Yeah, and maybe just hires them. You know, I used to pay...
And it becomes like apt-get, right?
Thinking about it, I used to pay for premium Mandrake repositories back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a Mandrake Club membership that gave me access.
Oh, you were in the club? Did you guys have those members-only jackets?
No, but we did get a form. We did get a form that we could log into. Yeah, I was a member of the Mandrake Club. I was pretty proud of it, and so I got access to the faster repositories.
It's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
What? It's great. It was great, and I was I was supporting my favorite distribution.
All right, let me ask a question. And where is Mandrake now?
Dude, it hurts.
How's that club going now?
It hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They went through a lot of changes. You know, Mandrake went through a lot of changes.
Mandrake VH1 behind the distro.
Yeah, it was a different time back then. All right, so here's another little bit of hoopla for you. I guess this is more of like a discussion hoopla. You had thoughts on the most effective way, or I don't know if I should say effective way, but at least thoughts on the challenges around scaling a development team, which I think is something that sometimes when you start up, you don't really give a lot of thought to. So then later on, there's probably a form of, how are we going to restructure this so this works so we can actually add more people to this project? But I'd like to hear your thoughts on this particular. Scaling a development team, Mr. Dominic, how much does it suck, and why should we never do it?
I would like to say that it is not like...
What is somebody brewing? Is somebody brewing coffee right now in the background?
No, that's not what you hear. You do not hear coffee brewing. You hear the screams of my slave boy here. He's brewing coffee.
Yeah,
I did not think you could.
It definitely sounds like a coffee pot in the background.
Don't you have an ad to read or something?
I mean, I could if you want. I was. All right, I guess if you want to give that guy a chance to brew coffee. Otherwise, we could just sit here and we could just talk about something.
Enjoy it. Waft it in, yes.
Yeah, just waft in the coffee experience. Like, all right. Well, I'll give you a second while your boy there makes coffee. I can't even believe it. Go over to linuxacademy.com and go to linuxacademy.com/coders and sign up for a free 7-day trial. It's a platform to learn more about Linux, a full-featured training library with everything you need to advance your skill set and, ultimately, your career and your mind. It's self-paced, in-depth video courses on every Linux, cloud, and DevOps topic, hands-on, scenario-based labs to give you experience on real servers, which cuts through the anxiety when you go do something in production or you're taking a test, and they have human beings that can help you, full-time instructors, when you get stuck. Course schedulers, which can help you pick a time frame and actually stick to it, which, if you think about it, if you're running your own business or you're working a lot of families and holidays, and it is one of those things that slips. It's like exercise, right? It just slips. It's nice to have like a system to help you stick to it if you're dedicated and you want to. They have nuggets too, where if you still want to get value from Linux Academy, but you don't want to go take like a 6-hour course. Maybe you want to spend 45 minutes. Maybe you want to spend 20 minutes, 10 minutes. They have nuggets, which are tiny, sparkly wisdom bits for like unique challenges and stuff that you can just do for a bit. And study tools, lesson audio that you can listen to even when you're not studying offline. And iOS and Android apps to learn on the go. And a community stacked full of Jupiter Broadcasting members. It's Linux Academy. Everything you need to learn and get hands-on with Linux topics. linuxacademy.com/coders. Go there, sign up for a free 7-day trial, and a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. linuxacademy.com/coders. Now, when team scaling becomes an issue, one of the things that sometimes people run into, as you may or may not have noticed from today's episode, is space issues, where everybody's in the same damn room, apparently, including the coffee machine.
So, okay. All right. So for next week's show, we'll have... They're talking now. Watch this. For next week's show, we have 2 rooms, and I will have my own room.
Oh.
I'm just saying.
Pants off?
Two
I mean, like door closed, pants off kind of room? Or is it...
Well, I have giant windows next to my desk, so that wouldn't help me too much.
So pants off, yes, then. I see.
And I am in the South, so I might, if I was coding naked, you would just hear women fainting going, "My, my."
Yeah. Oh, my. Yeah, you do
Oh,
give
my,
people...
that Yankee boy. Mm-mm.
You do give me the vapors sometime. I'll be
I
honest.
got you. Ooh, the vapors.
Yeah.
Child.
Scaling teams gives me the vapors too. Do you have tips for scaling down teams? Just making it like a real core
Yes.
tight.
Oh, you just lock the door and let them sit outside and don't come home for lunch. Then that's how they know they don't have jobs.
Oh no! Worst
Wow, I
advice.
just got a lot of looks.
Hashtag
lot of
worst
looks
advice
from,
ever.
from the manservant here.
Get out of here.
So okay, scaling up. I would actually say scaling up is harder than scaling down.
Yeah, sure. I mean, definitely, because picking people is like the hardest thing ever.
Well, it's not only that. So hiring people's hard, especially if you're a small company, because not only do they have to be like competent, but you have to make sure they're okay working in an organization that is like prejudiced against the great state of Cuba, or perhaps hires underage children to build desks and brew very weak, bad tasting coffee.
It's legal as long as you claim their family.
Oh. Crap. I thought it was just legal. I'm in the South. No, I'm kidding.
All right, I'm following you so far.
All kidding aside, right? I'm making lots of jokes, and please do not tweet me thinking that I'm actually holding children prisoner here. There is something to be said for that, though, right? Like, you are hiring people to come into what is effectively a super volatile environment. Because volatile doesn't necessarily mean bad. Volatile can mean, if you're doubling head count every 6 months, that's volatile.
Yeah,
Right?
sure.
That's like extremely volatile.
Mhm.
And that's a tough environment to cope with.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I find it hard to cope with. I mean, you made a joke because there's a lot of background noise these last few weeks. It's because we're just running out of room in this space.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now we have the second space next door, but so our desks, this is a fun side note, are doors from Lowe's with metal sawhorses from Lowe's as well.
Dude, that's badass. That is like,
Yeah.
that's
But-
hardcore. That's
but
like
because
stuff
I
for like
don't own-
Instagram promotional posters and stuff, pictures.
That's what they are. Because I don't own my own truck, I have to rely on my father-in-law to pick them up.
Nice.
And let's just say I've been waiting for a desk for a month.
Jeff Bezos did it back in the day when they started Amazon. His desk was also a door.
You know why? These are the nicest desks we've had without spending like $200 a desk. These
Got
are
good
about,
leg room.
I think, good leg room, and you have lots of room. I like to have a notebook on my right, and I have my monitor and my MacBook. I mean, my computer on a stand. So I have 2 screens, a notebook, a nice mouse pad. It's good times.
Yeah, nice setup. So,
But,
other
yeah,
than the
we're on the
obvious
pain.
physical space issues, I mean, that seems like an almost impossible challenge to tackle is the space issues, unless you have a facility that's large enough.
Well, I mean, we're just the answer is spend more money, right? Like,
Yeah.
There's also issues of like processes, and this has kind of bit me in the ass fairly recently, or literally extremely recently. Someone's booting up a Mac. You hear everything.
Yeah.
Where the processes that worked at a couple guys don't work at 7, right? And they're not going to work at 10 either. I feel like it's every time, and this is just Mike's crazy theory of scaling, every time you increment an order of 3, so 3, 6, 9, 12, you have to reevaluate all your processes.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like who do I talk to for this stuff, or how come nobody's gotten the mail for the last 3 days, and like these things were just things fall through the cracks because different people are doing different things, and that is a real challenge. And if you don't have you don't have a long history as a company where some things are like well established, like Barb's always in charge of the office supplies, so you always know no matter who starts, Barb's getting office supplies. And but if you don't got a Barb, that stuff floats. You need Barb.
You need Barb. You also need like things like style guides, right? So it looks like, and this is a double pain point because we're also like 50% distributed. So, it's really hard to maintain a uniformity of style with remote teams, and that can hit you in like dumb ways where it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, I use 4 spaces and they use 2, and that's annoying, which is something that's hit me. But it can also hit you in, can't we just like standardize our version of Ruby?
Yes.
Is it that hard?
Yes. Yeah. Or even like the editors, the versions or IDEs people are using. Yeah. That's also
like half the teams using RubyMine. I'm using VS Code. Right? Everybody, you know, it's a standardization problem.
I mean, how's everybody sharing files? Are some people using their own personal Dropbox account, or are some people sending them through Slack?
No. So this is one thing where I'm pretty heavy-handed.
Oh yeah.
Everything is the Google for Work, the corporate Google Drive.
Okay, yeah.
And we use Slack for everything else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's actually Slack first, Google Drive second, right? Because and you know, our whole process, so this was going to be the topic for today, but I didn't get all my thoughts together. I did an experiment with GitHub and GitHub issues over Jira and Bitbucket, and we ended up just completely going back to Atlassian, to Jira.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What happened, my child?
Well, GitHub is a little more sexy, I found, but when you're already a distributed team full of people who, you know, because you're distributed, maybe you don't pick up on everything. Maybe, you know, let me walk that back a little bit. It's not just that we're distributed that causes some of these communication problems. It's that we're super small, right? We're 7 dudes, so everybody's doing like 3 jobs.
Sure.
And you get a phenomenon where if you don't, and this maybe is my personal failing, if someone's not slacking me with a problem or a question, it's all good in the hood, right? like, hey, until I get a complaint, I don't know there's a problem, and it's hard for me to respond. Whereas if you were, you know, and I even know this, right? With people in the office, I can tell when someone, you know, in the room or the room next to me is struggling,
right?
Because even you know, we used to have a 2-suite office, right? And we're going back to that now. It's easy to just like walk in while you're drinking your coffee between calls and be like, hey, is everything going? And get that kind of quick feedback. Remote, it's really hard, especially because sometimes people don't want to tell you they're struggling. Sometimes people don't know that they're struggling. Yeah. They're going down a rabbit hole. I mean, you know this as a technology person. I know this as a dev. You could go down like writing some crazy custom algorithm, and it turns out on GitHub there's a BSD licensed like Ruby gem that does that in 5 seconds, right? So that's been a challenge. And let me just finish up the thought. Jira had a good way of so there were 2 things. We moved off of a sprint model when we moved to GitHub. We moved to more of a pure project focused Kanban model, if you're familiar with the term.
A focus what?
Kanban.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm getting like deep into the agile.
I like it. This is new. I need to learn. So tell me me.
So Kanban is just a very simple like Trello style board, right?
Oh, okay.
But the problem is it takes like a project focus instead of a sprint focus, which you might think, and I thought was like a good idea to look at the holistically at the full product that you were building for someone. But it turns out you lose a lot when you do things that way. You don't get those short-term, you know, week-by-week wins that you need to, 1, keep the team motivated, and 2, keep the client feeling confident. So we've ended up just completely moving away from that. I would even go a step further. The Kanban method and I'm talking about the project, like up to from zero to ship Kanban, makes sense for a product if you are like a product startup, which is one thing you're doing, because it doesn't matter, right? You're just running from 0 to launch. But if you're doing consulting as well, you have this other factor called the client that you need to manage their expectations. And sprints are good because in the beginning of a sprint, you sit down and you have a meeting and say, this is what we're doing and nothing else, right? For this week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. At that point, at the end of the week, or at the end of the sprint, right? Some people do 1, some people do 2 weeks. You have another conversation. Did you deliver what you said you would, or did you not? If not, why? If you over-delivered, well, that's just sugar on the cake, right? Or whatever, sugar with the medicine. That's perfect. I also find that from a project management perspective, since we don't have like dedicated PMs, it makes it easier for me in particular to like look in on 2 or 3 projects and be like, okay, this is what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But there's overhead. The downside is there's overhead in the structure, but go ahead.
Kanban, it's or Kanban, it's Kan, right? BAN. So I'll put a link to this in the show notes. Very interesting.
That might be my New Jersey accent. I think it is Kanban actually, not Kanban.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Ah, cool. Well, that's a little discovery there. So now, where does this leave you? It sounds like when you're looking at scaling issues, you're actively pursuing tooling. Sounds like tooling's a big part of it, and workflow.
We're pursuing tooling, but so some of these problems we're trying to solve by scaling more. We're trying to hire. Like one thing I think we found is that myself and the magical pony that is Dave can't QC everything. We can't test everything. And it would mean that one of us or both of us can't do any dev anymore.
Yeah.
So we're actually exploring, and in fact, I had an interview today, hiring a dedicated quality control person or quality assurance person.
Really?
I know the industry is like totally against that, but for, you know, it's one. Okay, there's a couple things here, right? You're never going to automate away the need for testing, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really hard to get developers to write their own tests if they've never done it before. And that's bad, even if you could get them, because the tests tend, and we've tried some experiments with it, the tests tend to be pretty shallow. And even for mine, right? Like, I'm not a good test-driven guy. Like, my test, like, I can do assertions, right? If, nil, whatever. But that's not really, like, deep, smart testing procedures. So, yeah, we're interviewing actively for that.
Now, are you looking for local people, though?
On this one, we are looking for local people. Yeah.
So think of that if you're in the area.
There are certain roles that, with this hybrid model, we're finding like general developers can totally be remote, but the like sales, support, testing, I'm finding make a lot more sense on site.
Yeah, I completely see that. That makes a ton of sense. If you can do it, that's a great way to go. I've definitely been in shops where QA was on site, and it is a way better process because they definitely feel like they're more part of the team. You same thing. You get a sense of like, oh man, this is not a good day for them, and that means like, what's really going on? Whereas when it's somebody that's remote, it's sort of a black box. You get reports back, you get information back, you get some bugs created, and it's just sort of input in, output. There's no exchange, anything more. I found it to be really good because for me, just as somebody that was managing the systems there, I could go to these people and they would be an expert they would be a subject matter expert generally, and so they could tell me if there was any problems. I mean, it was super useful, and it was kind of rare to have it on site. I think only like 2 of my clients ever. So good for you. Now, before we get out of here for the day, did you want to talk about how you and your wife are absolutely wrong and apparently have really bad opinions? Or do you
want to... so all right. Hang on. I want to talk about this. I know. Okay. I'm sorry people who hate when you talk about hardware, but this is bullshit.
Wow.
So my wife's like, oh my God, T-Mobile sucks down here. And no, she does not sound like that. But let's switch to Verizon. This is a former Verizon. She was a Microsoft and a Verizon employee. So she's like deep on the dark side.
That explains a few things.
So much. Yeah, it explains a lot, right? And she's like, you have no contract with T-Mobile anyway, and you own your phones. We could just switch. Oh, and they'll give you a phone. I'm like, okay. She's like, let's get iPhone 10s. I'm like, no, I don't want an iPhone 10, but you can have one if you want. So she stayed up till 3 a.m. like a nut job, ordered herself a black iPhone 10. I went to the Verizon store, and I decided to get an 8 Plus. I was going to get it in white. I'm at the store, and she's like, can you get it in black? And she ended up insisting that I get it in black. I should have known right there that there was some chicanery afoot.
Yeah, okay. That does seem a little odd that she was insistent on your phone color.
Yeah, so last week I'm in the kitchen. She's doing whatever. I'm playing with the baby or whatever. And she picks up my phone and says, this is pretty nice. So what are you doing tonight? You working tonight? I said, yeah, I got to do some work. She's like, okay, well, you don't need your phone the whole time, do you? No, why? I'm just going to wipe the phones out and switch the SIMs, and then I'll give you the X. I was robbed. It was a highway robbery.
Wow.
So I am now, and what was her reason? Are you ready? Face ID was too much of a hassle.
Really?
She doesn't like the gesture. She misses the home button.
Yeah.
So I am now the reluctant user of an iPhone 10.
Well, so let's see. How long have I had mine now? I don't remember. It's been weeks. And it's been a long time since I've thought maybe I will never get another phone again. And maybe ever since smartphones have come out, I've never had that thought. And with the iPhone 10, I'm not advocating anyone get one. If you love Android devices or you love, Sailfish, I am thrilled for you. for me, there's a couple of things about the iPhone X that are pretty great. So for first of all, Face ID is an absolute must-have feature for me from now on. I can't use a phone without it if I'm going to have any kind of biometric sign-in. For me, I'm washing dishes, I'm playing with my kids outside, and I would always have a problem with Touch ID not working. And I just want to pop off a quick message to somebody or respond to something right there on the lock screen. And I would always have issues with Touch ID, where I never have that problem with Face ID anymore. And I've mounted where I have my phone mounted, it unlocks just when I look at my phone. So I don't have to touch my phone, which I always had a problem when I'm driving down the road, reaching way across my dash to where I have my phone mount and putting my thumb on there. It was always awkward. Now Face ID unlocks the phone for me. You make it super quick and easy and safe to start a podcast and get right back to driving. It's super low distraction. And the car mount I have it in, because I had Android devices in the past, supports Qi charging. So when I put my phone in my mount, it immediately just starts charging it. And I have a similar pad up at my desk, and I have a similar pad next to my bed. So I have literally never plugged a lightning cable into my iPhone X. I've never plugged anything into the lightning port ever in my iPhone
Really?
10.
So how reliable? So that is the one thing I've been like, well, I could get one of those. Is it Qi or Key?
I think it's Qi, like
Qi,
like your Qi.
like Chia.
Yeah, like your Qi energy.
I could get to put one like on your bed table, right? Well,
yeah,
you go
and they
to
have
bed,
ones that also stand it up, which is pretty great.
Interesting.
So you can still read it and use. And on the desk, I have one that vertically stands it, so Face ID still works while it's in the, which is also great because I can just reach over and flick something. I mean, I'm all in on it. It's pretty good. I don't use the animojis that Johnny Ive is such a big fan of and that kind of stuff. But
okay,
I do use it for the unlock.
You're my unfiltered Freedom Caucus kind of guy here.
Yeah, you could also just use your old passcode. The Discord is asking. Yes, you can.
Right, but that feels barbaric, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
But I have to say, I went 24 hours without using Face ID because I'm like, all right, the whole idea that like, not that there's any reason this would happen to me, but because Face ID is not something it's something you are. It could be unlocked forcibly by a government official putting your phone to your face. Same thing with a fingerprint. Worries me, right? Not that I'm doing anything, but like you're giving up your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights.
Right. But that was the same risk on the 10, or I mean on the Touch ID.
On the Touch ID,
yeah.
Right.
The thing that they've also introduced in the 10, which I know we've said before, is kind of nice, is now you can mash the buttons on the side of the phone, and it will disable all biometrics, and they will require re-authentication to the device using a passcode, which is a nice feature if you happen to have the option to do that.
Now, having said that, all my data is in the cloud, so it hardly matters.
I do like, though, that they've thought of that they've built in an emergency hardware disabling of the biometrics. I don't think that gets enough attention. That's a pretty nice feature.
No, I think that's smart. I have some. So, okay. Like the first thing I did, I got the new phone from her, and I decided to use it. And I realized like none of my apps look good on this phone.
Not a lot of them, yeah. Well, some of them
but even like apps I've developed for people, like the Notch is an abomination, especially if the app has a light color scheme. Mm-hmm. It looks awful. It's like there's this black protruding thing coming through, your stark like light blue or white or whatever.
How long have you had the phone?
Only a couple days.
I would definitely say by 48 hours, I stopped seeing the notch ever. I forgot there even was a notch until you put it in the show notes, honestly, because I just don't see it.
Yeah. No, maybe it's because I'm looking at my own apps that I've developed, and it's making me
sure.
crazy.
Oh, I would totally think that's part of it.
And I'm like, you know what? We spent so much time on this UI, and now it just looks like shit, and there's these bars.
Now, just really quick, though, on the apps that are designed for the notch, do you like the way that looks? Because I've actually, I've liked, what I like about it is the way it groups my cell information and my signal information in the clock. I like that it breaks that up, and I don't have the carrier name there anymore. I just have the data. And this is going to sound, if you haven't seen it yet, but the screen is really good. And the scroll looks like somebody has green screened an image onto a phone, is what it looks like when you're using it.
It looks like a Photoshop job.
Yeah, it legitimately looks like a fake screen when you're holding it in your own hand. And so there's something weird about that when it scrolls past the notch, because you have this thing that is almost in the uncanny valley. It looks so weird on that screen because it just, again, it looks like it's green screened on, like it's been placed in post. And then it scrolls past the notch, which is this physical thing over the top of it. And to me, it was very distracting for the first 48 hours. And then after that, I never really saw it again. And because the apps that haven't been designed for the notch, that area is just black. So then you don't even see the notch because the blacks are so black that you can't tell where the screen ends and the notch starts.
So this is my problem, right? So like for a while there, I was really into the iOS 7 era, and iOS 10 like white, like light dark design paradigm, right? Now if I get a new app in, I'm going to really recommend a darker color theme. Because I noticed, Overcast, Marco Arman's podcast app, now has a light, dark, and black mode.
No, all dark, all total black mode. Yeah, because that means then you're not using battery for any of the parts where it's off.
Well, and the black blends in with the notch.
That's true too. Yeah.
On the top.
Yeah.
And that looks really good. But the white mode looks, and like my email client of choice, AirMail 3, and my own my old Backpoints app both look terrible because they're white.
Yeah. Yeah, the white is the harshest. Black, all black, not like gray, but like all black.
Like straight up, like pure,
Yeah, and I've also set my background to all black, so I have an all black background, nothing on it, and it really pops, and it saves a little bit of battery life too, I would think, because that's the nature of OLEDs. Now now to the gesture points, I think it's pretty good. I think there's some gestures that kind of suck, like getting to the control center. And some of that stuff, but I can't understate how great it is to just run my thumb along the bottom of the screen, and as fast as I can move my meat stick across the glass, it switches apps. Boom, 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 boom. There's the right app, and I can just swap, 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 swap. I can do it with my pointer finger while I'm driving. I can do it with my thumb while it's in my hand. I can blast between applications in a way I've never been able to do on a mobile device. I don't even bother with the whole swipe up into to the side gesture to get to multitasking. Just swipe through them like cards, kind of like I'm on WebOS, and that to me is an improvement that they should roll out to all the iPhones, even the ones with the buttons. Just let you do that at the bottom of the screen, because that's great. And Android should rip that crap off as fast as possible. Also think that.
Don't worry, Samsung is already on it.
I think really Google should be looking back and looking at some of these gestures are done pretty well, and I think part of the key thing about these gestures is the frame rate on the phone is, I don't know, is it 120 hertz display? It's very high. I mean, the frame rates are such that when you do a gesture, it's nailed to your hand. It is really more so than the iPhone's ever been. So you get a direct sense of how the gesture is manipulating the operating system because it is exactly on point with your finger. And that kind of feedback, I think, is kind of unique to iOS. It'd be a little bit harder for Android to pull that off. So that's why some of these gestures, I think, work in a way that I haven't liked gestures in the past. Not all of them are great, but a few of them are really good. That's why I think it's a pretty, and the battery life, I couldn't even really tell you because I have the damn thing on wireless pads all the time, but I generally don't run it down below 40% if I haven't been on the charger all day. So it's got a little bit better battery life.
I run mine down so far I run it down because I'm not up with the Qi.
Have you, and then okay, this is the last thing, but the rear camera, pretty good, with the second pop in, and it's optically image stabilized now on the second camera. And I find I'm using that all the time when I'm taking pictures of my kids and the new dog. I find it to be pretty good, pretty good. I am also running the latest Android on my Nexus 6P, and I feel like Android's better than it's ever been too right now. Like the latest versions of Android feel like Google has put a level of thought and polish into it that is way beyond anything they've ever done with Android. So yeah, I'm not saying that the iPhone is the ultimate phone for everyone, but I'm saying for me, I really can't see what else I need from a phone for a while. They're going to really have to do something that would make me want to switch, because this thing is pretty damn convenient now. With the fact that I already had all the Qi hardware, and that the Face ID eliminates the problems I have with Touch ID when I have wet hands or when I'm driving, pretty big upgrade for me. I think iOS 11's still a bit of hot garbage. That's still an issue.
Yeah, I think... I mean, that is a whole nother discussion we don't have time for today, but...
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, software degrades over time, right?
I mean, it's one of those things where I think that as the project gets larger and the operating system gets more complex and then the devices start to diverge, this is something that Google had to solve a long time ago. where well, their OEMs do. But now Apple they have the iPhone 10, they have the iPhone 8, they have all of the old iPhones they're still shipping, plus they have the iPad hardware. There's a lot of deviations and variations probably in the iOS code base now, and it's getting more and more complex. And it could be a topic for a future episode, but not this week, Mr. Dominic. Is there any other wisdom you want to leave the folks with before we get out of here?
No, just go to @themadbotter Inc. and @Doomnuko on Twitter.
You maniac. You know what? I'll follow that up with a little @ChrisLAS on the Twitter, @JupiterSignal for the network, and JupiterBroadcasting.com/calendar for our live time. Thank you very much for joining us on this week's episode of the Coder Radio program. If you want to give us your thoughts and some feedback, Twitter is probably the most interactive way to get a hold of us. But if you want to catch us before we go on the air, coderradio.reddit.com. There'll be a thread in there for episode 287. You can also go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact for good old-fashioned email. And we may read your thoughts on a future episode. Thanks, and we'll see you right back here next week. Ow!
Holy crap. Get the hell out of here.
Okay. Now we do ourselves the title, and we are done. Good show, Mr. Dominic. Good show. Titles.
The titles will run on time.
I think if you give it a chance, I think you'll find that it's the thing is like when I use my Android devices, they haven't had fucking buttons for years. So it's really the iPhone's just been way behind on dropping the button thing, in a way. You know what I'm saying? So think about that.
I don't know. I don't want things to change. I want it to be the same.
So let's see. I submitted "You Need a Barb."
I do not see titles.
That's on Discord. It's not on the titles page. I just searched Discord too. Do you see anything you're liking? Coder Radio's Plan B. You Need a Barb's pretty obscure. We got to talk about a holiday coverage too at some point.
Aren't we getting up to 300 pretty soon?
Yes. We have been. There has been some work on that. So let's see. So next week is the 18th. Then the week after that is Christmas, and then the week after that is New Year's. Right, Coder Radio is hit by both.
Well, I mean, there's always the freebie, year in review, next year's predictions.
Yes.
So that's one, right?
Yeah.
It could even be two.
Yeah. But when the fuck we're gonna do that between now and then, I don't know.
Wait, we can't. Let's break out Fantastical now.
Oh my gosh! So what are we gonna do for a title? You need a barb, or do you want something that's more on point, like scaling your team?
Barb. Okay. I like the Barb one because you know what? Barb has been waiting for justice. Barb needs Batman.
It's true.
Oh right. So next week is the 18th. We could do a show, but I'm not doing a show on Hanukkah. So.
Okay.
It's my homeboy Jesus' favorite holiday, December 25th.
Yeah. That's the day that Jesus.
Good, I have 3 meetings that are automatically canceled that day. Yes.
So there's something to figure out. We need like.
Well, there's the 28th, but we could do the Thursday that week, I guess. Although or we could do a pre-record.
Yeah, that takes, I don't know.
I mean, the New Year's... Go ahead.
Like a best of, you mean?
Oh, but dude, January 1st is a Monday. We could actually do the New Year's show on New Year's Day if we wanted.
Yeah, that's true.
The odds of me showing up to that are...
Yeah, I could probably make that, I would think.
Can you sober up by 3?
You mean, what do you mean sober up? I mean, what the hell are you talking about?
I mean, recover from the hangover by 3.
Yeah. I'll just keep it riding. That's what I'll do. I'll just keep drinking all day. Yeah, as if I could do that. 3 or 4 drinks after, and I start feeling sick. So I'm an old man.
I start singing things, "Oh Danny Boy" to people.
Yeah. I start singing "Take Me Out of the Ball Game." Well, so what do you want to do? Do you want to? The other thing we could do is something like, I don't know, actually. Something next week, like at the end of the week, we could just do them then.
We could just do a pre-record. I mean, what we could do. Hang on, sorry.
If we got together like on the 22nd, and just banged a couple out for the 25th and the 1st.
So just do a double on the 22nd and the regular show on the 18th.
Yeah, basically. And the one on the 22nd would basically be offline, or we could stream it, but it would basically be Rikai would sit on it and release one on Monday and release one on New Year's. We could pretend like it's 2019 in the second episode, or 2018, I mean.
We could do a lame Back to the Future thing like we did that one year. Marty.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's just do like 2018, or that'll be the double. 2018 in review, 2019 looking forward.
Yeah.
Or wait, what year is it?
I know.
I need to go back.
Yeah. This is why we need a Barb. All right, sounds good. We'll sync up. We'll sync up on next Monday too. But yeah. All right, Mr. Dominic, have yourself a good week.
Have yourself a happy little Kwanzaa.
Talk to you later.
Later.
Happy
Bye.
Festivus. All right, chat room. You know what we got to do. You know what we got to do.
Get the hell out of here.
I thought I just hung up on that guy. What the fuck is going on there? All right. Thank you for making it today. Ask Noah is coming up in just a little bit on the live stream. Let's go a little holiday. Let's go a little holiday standby there. There we go. Ask Noah's coming up next live. I'll put the latest reruns on the stream in the meantime. I appreciate you being here. Tomorrow on the show, or on the stream, we got the Linux Unplugged show. So join us for that too. I think otherwise, I'm out of here. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one.